Yo,
Hey Doug,
how is it going?
it's going all right. I'm just sitting here in New Jersey right now.
Yeah?
I
Why there?
promise. I'm visiting my girlfriend. She's out here, and I'm in the process of relocating to the East Coast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also very glad to hear that neither of us have any plans on a Halloween night, so we can go ahead and do this. So that'll be great for all the creepy crawlers on YouTube that are hanging out here too.
Oh yeah, too old for that. It's
Yeah,
it's. I'll like go see like a scary movie this weekend or something. That's the extent of my Halloween.
yeah. Pretty much, I'm planning on a nice reviewing of Hereditary this weekend, and that will be the way
Solid.
I celebrate Halloween, I think.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I've always thought too that I just think going for like a very old costume idea would always be great too. Like I think going for like Squid Games this year would be killer. You know, just something kind of old, off, make people
Yeah.
re-explain it, that kind of thing
It's
would be
funny
perfect.
in like 2019, me and my friend switched off. One of my buddies got a Left Shark costume. You
Yeah,
remember Left Shark
yeah,
at the
Katy
Super
Perry.
Bowl way back when? And it was exactly that. It was like 4 years too late, so it was hilarious again. And like 2017, 2018, 2019, we just switched off. One of us got the costume, and it killed every time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, people love irony. We're living in
Oh,
that world
totally.
right now.
Yeah, you can't do anything unless you're making fun of yourself.
Exactly, exactly. No more room for sincerity anymore.
No, God,
Um,
no.
But cool. Pretty much we're gonna try to run down, hit every single game with a quick preview here. Gonna try to spend about 5 minutes on every game. Look, I'll be transparent, guys. Some of them will have more to say, some of them we won't. And hey, sometimes it'll devolve into different things. If you guys want us to talk more about different things, obviously feel free to comment. We'll come back around and want to make a good show for you guys too. So um, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. First one up, and I think this is going to be one that will absolutely devolve into a different conversation than the actual game. That is Saints at Panthers. Um, Really quick, I think just fun to sort of intro this game with these are two teams landed in week one. They looked one way, right? Then we have Carr go down. We got Bryce Young get benched. Saints look incredible. All of a sudden they don't anymore, and they have Spencer Rattler in there for a couple of weeks. It looks absolutely awful, and suddenly both of these teams have found their way to have their quarterbacks that were in week one restarting and facing each other again here in week nine. So I think it's just kind of a funny journey between these two guys. Yeah, I was curious, like, you know, the one thing I wanted to kind of just launch this off with and get your take on is Vegas is giving the over under of this game at 43 and a half, which is so funny because in week one, New Orleans scored 47 on their own. So wanted to kind of just start off with how are you feeling about the Derek Carr return? Yeah, do the Saints have life?
I think that in this game they certainly do. I know he had some comments earlier where he was like, "I'm not a savior," and I think he was just looking at their record when they said that. I think that with him under center, this offense is still going to tear apart the Panthers. I don't think it'll be quite as lopsided as their first matchup. But I think that they're really, this season didn't go how the Saints expected, but this is exactly how everyone thought the Panthers were going to end up, 8 games in. They look awful because they are awful, because they don't have an identity on either side of the ball. I hope Bryce Young does, and we talked about this last week. I hope that he can show flashes. I don't think this is the game where he'll do it. I just don't, they gave up Deontay Johnson. He's been in and out of the lineup. He's not in a rhythm with his offense. I still see this being at least a two-score game in the Saints' favor, and I would hit that over at 43 and a half pretty easily.
I think I would too. I mean, Shahid is banged up. That's maybe your one guy that you're a little worried about that isn't there. And Kamara is banged up too. But I mean, it's Kamara, and we know the way that Carr likes to play with him. He's going to also just get him out in the flats and the screens,
Yeah.
and that'll just be an extension of that. The Panthers are like the very worst rush defense in the entire league, and they're going up against Kamara, and then they've got Carr back. I think we're going to probably see a healthy dose of Kamara until they can maybe do some play action and hopefully have. The OC's name is escaping me. I really liked him at the beginning. Um,
Oh, yeah. What's his name? He was a head coach for so long.
Yeah, well, all to say,
Um,
I'm gonna look him up real quick here. Uh,
it's Kubiak, right? Isn't it?
Clint Kubiak. Yep,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. He did so well those first 2 weeks. Bill Simmons was comparing them to the greatest show on turf. So I think if Kubiak wants to kind of regain some of that, new offensive guru vibe, if Carr wants to kind of reclaim, really, I not it'd be hyperbole to say the rest of his career here, but I do think he needs to put on a good rest of the season if he wants to keep playing, QB1 for the rest
Yeah.
of, another year or two here. So I don't know. I'm with you. I think this is going to be a blowout for the Saints, 2 scores. And I think this is kind of the way they get back on track with their offense.
Yeah. And I was wrong about Kubiak. He was not a head coach ever in his life.
Word.
I
Well,
was confusing him with Cliff Kingsbury, the two KKs.
and then there's
It's
Gary Kubiak.
Gary Kubiak. Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
all these.
it's all there's too many K names.
Well, and just like too many last, like it's so funny to be like, oh, there's Jim Harbaugh, there's John Harbaugh, there's Jay Harbaugh. It's just like
Yeah.
all these dudes. But cool, sweet. Let's go on to. We're gonna just rip through here and get into the Commanders at Giants. Not too much interest in the Saints and Panthers, I don't think. Um, so let's get into these guys.
Yeah.
I think this will actually be a pretty fun conversation. The biggest thing here that I think is interesting to touch on is there's a bit of a worry on my end that we might be a little too optimistic about the Commanders in some ways. So I think, and the biggest thing here is like the Commanders and Giants. I think this will actually be a really great moment for the Commanders to potentially just show how much better they've gotten since week 2 when they first played the Giants. That really
Yeah.
should have been a loss for the Commanders. Brian Dable had this weird thing with Graham Gano where they asked him before the game. They knew he had a strain. He was like, he's going to be fine. First kickoff injured. They don't have a kicker. Daniel Jones and that team looked pretty good. They were moving the ball. And the reason they came up short, they only scored 18 points. They missed all of their 2-point conversions, and they were forced to, play a fourth down play. I think like Washington's own 28 on fourth down with like maybe 2 minutes left. That really should have been a Giants win. I think they've had a really easy schedule, and I 1,000% think Jaden Daniels is a legit thing. He's a reason for hope in Washington. But this defense isn't very good. They're getting better. Yeah.
I think that last week was kind of a get right game for the Commanders D. And we can talk about the Bears offensive play calling and whether or not Caleb Williams is legit. But the fact of the matter is, the Bears going into their matchup had put up, 30 plus points in their previous 2 games. They were really rolling, and the Commanders held them to under 20. They were getting into the backfield, which is something that you weren't really seeing earlier in the season. The secondary was holding up. That's still a point of concern with them, just not a ton of talent in that secondary. But I don't have a ton of optimism about this Daniel Jones offense. So I think that as long as Jaden Daniels can get those 2 or 3 explosive plays that we've come to expect from him in pretty much every matchup, and they actually capitalize them, and they're more efficient in the red zone than they were last week, where they kicked 5 field goals within the 20. I think that I do think that this is going to be a closer game than maybe Commanders fans are hoping. I think that this Giants defense is one of the better ones that they're going to face this year. But I think that the Commanders, as long as they stick to their offensive game plan, as long as they do what they do best, as long as they get Terry McLaurin involved, I think that they'll take this one.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that those field goals. This like shocked me. The amount of points they average per drive. I don't know if you saw this in the notes or not. Could you guess what they're getting points per drive?
Oh,
Typically it's around like, 1.5, around there.
I don't know, two and a half.
They're averaging more than 3 points a drive. They average a
Really?
field goal per drive, which is insane. I like number one by a decent margin. Um, you know, they're a legit offense, their schedule is a lot to do with it. I do think this is like absolutely one of those teams where when betting comes around next offseason and the Commanders are, over under 9.5 wins, 8.5 wins, I think I'm going to probably slam that under pretty hard because of the competition that they've had here and those lucky wins at the start of the season. But the fact of the matter is, they're 6-2. They won those lucky games. Good teams find ways to win. As dumb as sometimes that sounds, it can just be true. And I think they're probably going to show off against this Giants defense only because they're going to get so many opportunities. Giants just won't move the ball.
Yeah.
There's a great Athletic article this week that gave such a good encapsulation of where this Giants offense is at, which is, you may remember the 2021 Giants. They had the likes of Jake Fromm. They had the corpse of Mike Glennon. They were the ones that did the 2 QB sneaks inside their own 20 for to get to a 4th and 9 and a great punt.
Yep.
This was also with Freddie Kitchens, a known meme within the NFL sector.
Sure.
That team was averaging 15.2 points per game. This team averages 14.6. So that offense was actually more productive than the current one.
Yeah, and it is still, we're not quite halfway through the season. There's time for them to kind of get into a rhythm and adjust to the loss of Saquon Barkley, get Malik Neighbors more involved. I think that he's really, last week, I think, I don't have his numbers in front of me, but we didn't really see him kind of opening up the offense like he was kind of earlier in the season before he had his injury concerns. I think that if they can get him going and they can get him going early and they kind of force the Commanders to play from behind, their road to success. But yeah, I really don't see, barring a kind of like statement game from him, 120 yards, touchdown or two. I don't see that offense really doing much of anything, even against this Commanders squad that has been inconsistent so far.
Yeah, totally. Who are you picking?
In this one, Commanders.
Yeah,
Totally.
easy. I think it's an easy one. Awesome. Let's move on to Dolphins at Bills. This one, maybe a year ago would have had some juice. Earlier in the season might have had some juice. I'll tell you right now, I really don't think the Dolphins have too much of a shot in this one. And if there's anything that has opened my eyes, I've been a Mike McDaniel guy. I like him. I'm always a nerd for the offensive scheme guys, Shane Steichen, him, Andy Reid, obviously, those guys. But I mean, I'm kind of thinking the Emperor is without his capris when Tua is not in the lineup. It is odd how much better they look with that QB change. And it makes sense because, it's so based on timing. It's a lot of these short routes. It's a very unique with a lot of moving parts offense. You obviously want your guy who completely understands it in there. It's just odd that he can't adjust with, such great skill players around him, whether it's Achane, whether it's, Hill. I'm pretty sure Waddle's been injured a couple times here, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I haven't felt good about the Dolphins at all. One of the weirder things too about their season, just mentioned the offense, but one thing that hasn't been, a huge wrench in it, like Tua going down, is their defense, which it's very weird to me. They grade out pretty much evenly across the board around, anywhere from 16th to 18th, anywhere you look, in their defensive metrics. And I just don't buy that. I don't think they're that good of a defensive team. And I think a lot of those numbers are just kind of noise right now. And I don't think they're going to do well against this Bills offense.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And you have it in the notes there. This has not been a remotely competitive divisional matchup for a very long time.
Yeah.
Bills have won 12 of the last 13. They win when the Dolphins look like contenders. They win when the Dolphins look like they're going to be picking in the top 10.
Yep.
I don't see a path to victory for the Dolphins. I think this is a very good Bills defense. They held them to 10 points in their first matchup. They've held teams to 10 points 5 times so far this season. I know a lot has been said about kind of Josh Allen being inconsistent isn't the right word, but not quite taking over games, not looking like this kind of superhero who's going to carry them to victory, but he hasn't really needed to. And I don't think that, like you said, this isn't a Dolphins defense that is really going to shut down a team that can consistently move the ball down the field like the Bills. I don't think that, to your point, I think that Mike McDaniels has kind of had an embarrassment of riches on offense for a while now, and we're kind of seeing what happens when he runs out of ideas. Because we're not, we see this was supposed to be like a big Jonnu Smith breakout year, and I know he's had a few good games, but I mean, Tyreek Hill did nothing at all when Tua was out. Waddle, even with Tua in, has been kind of disappointing. I know you said he's kind of playing through some stuff, Achane up and down. With so many mouths to feed on that offense, the fact that they still really haven't gotten rolling in any of these games makes me think that this is just going to be more of the same.
Yeah. It'd be hard for me to disagree with that. This is also just on the Bills side of the defense, like we're saying, where when Tua is in there, they do play well, but Tua has his worst games against the Bills. And it's crazy. Just before we kind of give our picks here, I think this was really eye-opening to me. It's a little cherry-picked only because he has played the most games against the Bills in his career. He's played 8 against them. But his career splits there are just noticeably bad. He's thrown 10 of his 40 interceptions against the Bills, so 25% of all of his picks are coming against Buffalo. He has the second worst passer rating against them against any other team. Lowest average air yards per attempt, so they're even just forcing him to throw it faster. And then he's throwing a 61.8% completion rate versus his career 67%. So everything goes down. He is constricted, and he just can't make it happen. And the last thing I wanted to end with was something that has always made a giant impression to me on how to stop this Dolphins offense, even when they are at full power, is I think if you've got linebackers and edge rushers who are down to just ignore when they go to play action, you fight through to the running back. And if you notice it's play action, you go right for Tua. You do not try to recover behind you. The guys are way too fast. You're never going to backpedal when you're already out leveraged. So just pressure the hell out of Tua or get to the running back right away and force Mike McDaniel to get away from the running game. When he gets away from the running game, they're completely stoppable. It's wild how much this running game matters to an offense that we think of as like so passing first and passing forward. But when they don't have the run game, they look awful. And I think it's no coincidence that they finally look decent. Again, with Tua, Achane has his season high last week, 97 on 10 carries. That's no coincidence. The team looks better when the run game gets going. So, yeah, I think if the Bills kind of adopt that style, no runs and constrict Tua, they already know how to do it. I think we'll just see that again this week.
I'm with you. I picked the Bills.
Yep, same here. We are right in line here, which is funny. I'm curious to see when these are the easy picks, though. I think these are the easy picks. Awesome. So let's move on to the Chargers at my beautiful, beautiful Browns. These beautiful, beautiful Browns. So this is gonna be a major test for Jameis Winston. I don't know if the Lord and Eminem will be behind him in this one. I will say, so Chargers, second ranked defense by EPA. They're great. They've got the stars in Bosa. I think the Browns are going to get ruined here. I think
Really?
this is going to be a nail in the coffin of their season. The way I view it is Jameis could have thrown 3 picks against one of the worst defenses in the league, the Ravens, last week. This is a much better defense. They're going to be able to generate pressure against a shaky offensive line. Yes, they are starting to get some continuity in it. Yes, Nick Chubb is back. But you just got rid of Amari Cooper, I think rightfully so. Your best receiver is probably Cedric Tillman, in all honesty, right now. I don't think they have the horses. And I think Justin Herbert, after coming into the year injured and not getting a lot of attention, I think Justin Herbert's one of the people that people are most happy to dance on his grave when he's not playing well. There's a lot of animosity towards him. It almost feels like jealousy. It's like he
Yeah.
stole all these guys' girlfriends that talk shit about him. But he has looked fantastic after not throwing for over 200 yards this all season. Over the last 3 weeks, he's thrown for 237, 349, 279. That ankle is feeling good. He is going to lift up, lesser skill players than he had last year with Harbaugh and Greg Roman, who know how to run the run game. And I think they're going to just take it right at the Browns. Browns won't be able to get any sort of pass rush going. And I think it's going to be a really long day for them.
Really, I think it's going to be closer than you think. I think that as much as we can talk about the offensive minds on the Chargers, right now, they're averaging, looks like 117 rushing yards per game. That's 20th in the league. And Justin Herbert, he's starting to get chemistry with Ladd McConkey. He's starting to get the pass game going. But, I mean, you look up their matchups the last few weeks. The only real, I think, impressive win they've had this season has been in Denver. And even that one, the defense shut down Denver for 3 quarters, and then they kind of started to leak, kind of started to come back. Bo Nix came alive. Justin Herbert, 237 yards against one of the better defenses in the league. But I do think that what stands out to me there is the lack of playmakers. J.K. Dobbins, I think is a passable running back. I don't think he's a game wrecker. Ladd McConkey, we're starting to see him develop. I don't think he's ready to take on a team like the Browns and have, the kind of 100-yard games that you want out of the top receiver for a quarterback like Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers offense is going to have a lot more problems with the Browns defense. I think this game is going to come down to which Jameis shows up. And I think since he had a good game last week, he's going to have a shit one this week. I think that he's going to have some arm punts. He's going to have some bad decisions. He's going to take some bad sacks against this pass rush. But I do think that the defense of the Browns will keep it close into the second half. I expect a very low-scoring game going the way of the Chargers.
Yeah. You were a little different there. I agree. Ladd McConkey has actually looked really good. They are building some chemistry. He's a great guy to bring up there. The Browns defense is good. I do think you're right. It'll be about almost kind of a scheme versus scheme thing. And I wonder, Browns love to play all their man coverage defense, and it will kind of be like an us versus them, talent versus talent thing. And it is one, the part that you kind of convinced me a little bit there was about Ladd McConkey. As good as he's been, is he really ready to be like a wide receiver one and take on, Denzel Ward on him all day?
Yeah.
Even Greg Newsome. They've got a lot of good guys in the secondary, so they will probably make it difficult there. I don't know though. There's just this part of me that thinks Jim Schwartz, a little bit of smoke and mirrors at the beginning of the year last year. They are at home where their defense does actually play decently, but Yeah, you're right. That's where the game is going to come down to is the Browns defense versus the Chargers offense, because I think we both sort of know what's going to happen with the Browns offense versus the Chargers defense. We're going to see a wild Jameis game.
We're gonna see some turnovers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Like he's not going to make it boring. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
It's gonna be a very exciting, shitty football game, is what I think will happen.
Sometimes the best kind.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, we both got Chargers there, but I'm a little less on the Browns. Sweet. Let's move on to the Patriots at the Titans. Again, one of those with two teams lost at sea here. What are we really going to do? I honestly, and this is so dumb, I'm the only person probably in the entire world kind of excited to see Mason Rudolph play. Little bit excited to see Mason Rudolph play.
I mean, I would be more excited to see Will Levis, but in like a car crash way.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Mason Rudolph kind of on his it's a little bit of a prove it year for him. They're giving him the keys to the car. He couldn't make an impression in Pittsburgh, a franchise that's been searching for their quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger retired. He's coming in, taking over for let's. I feel bad piling on, but truly one of the worst performers in the quarterback position this season with Will Levis. I think that there's still talent on this Titans offense. They still have Calvin Ridley. And I think that I do hope that Mason Rudolph can kind of shine and look a little bit like, okay, this is a guy who you don't mind backing up more
Your
elite
guy.
quarterbacks. I think his best case scenario is getting picked up by one of these winning teams to be a backup. Like the 49ers get him to back up Purdy or something like that. I think that's the job he's kind of auditioning for right now. And I think this might be the team to do it against this Patriots squad. They are coming off their most impressive win of the season, their second win of the season. But I mean, they beat the Jets. They
A
beat a
desperate
team
Jets,
that
too.
was a desperate Jets. They beat a Jets team in desperate need of a win that a lot of people thought were going to be competing for a wild card spot, if not, for the division. I know this isn't the Jets talk right now, so I'll keep that to a minimum. But I mean, that's a big win. That's a momentum win. Jacoby Brissett played the game without fucking everything up. The defense showed up. I think this might be kind of a slugfest of the shit teams.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing where I've got the Titans on this one, and I think it will be close. The biggest reason why I'm feeling that way is just because I think whoever's playing quarterback, because May is still banged up, it's unclear if he'll play or if Brissett will be in there. Titans have one of the best, rush defenses in the league. Jeffrey Simmons is sixth in rush defensive grade on PFF. Sebastian Joseph Day is sixth in stop percentage, which is essentially like a success rate. On first and down, do they get less than 3 yards, that sort of thing. And Simmons is eighth. They've got literally the top 10 guys in stop rate here on the run on their D line. Ramondre Stevenson really hasn't been able to get going behind this, really pasted together offensive line. They are starting to get some continuity. I think I read something where this will be 3 out of 4 of the 3 out of their last 4 games, they will be starting the same offensive line. So congratulations, Patriots. That will be amazing for you guys. But that's where I get worried is you start to just slam the run. They can't do anything there. And then you're asking Jacoby Brissett, who just stepped in recently, he's a pro, he'll be fine. Or you're asking a Drake May that just got hurt to come in and try to do a lot there. So that's where I'm feeling a little bit better about the Titans.
If Drake May plays, I like the Patriots. I think that he's shown enough to make me to play winning football. I think that this is kind of one of those games where a young quarterback going against a struggling team, uh, I think that his guys will rally around him. This has kind of been the last couple weeks since their head coach went in front of the media and called them soft.
Yeah.
I think they could have a little bit of a rallying moment, and I think that if their rookie quarterback plays, we're gonna see the best of this Patriots squad, and I think the best of the Patriots beats the best of the Titans with Mason Rudolph.
Oh, I disagree. I think I'm taking the Titans regardless of who plays quarterback.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm glad we got our first disagreement. Finally, some drama and controversy. I love it. No, it really is just that running thing. I'm worried about them having zero run game for Drake May or Brissett, and then I just think Will Levis has been so detrimental to this team that it's almost hard to even know how good this Titans offense is. They really should be 4-4. Like Levis like single-handedly lost at least two games. The Bears game, absolutely, and you could argue he single-handedly lost that Jets game too. It's just that's where it's just Levis is so bad, and the Patriots,
Yeah.
the just knowing that they're so good on the run defense is where I'm just really feeling good about the Titans.
I get that, but I guess I'm just romantic about a rookie quarterback. I like Drake May's chances.
It's
If
funny. Me
if
and you
it's
are. Go ahead.
if it's Brissett, I take the Titans. But I think if Drake May plays, we're gonna start to see some life out of the Patriots offense.
It's funny. I'll have to remember that because you're charmed by the rookie quarterback. My very favorite kind of quarterback is Mason Rudolph, Jake Browning, Mike White. These are the guys I get up for. Like
See, I'm so the I think that that magic runs out quick. I think those guys can look real good for a couple games and trick their fan base into thinking, wait, we might have a franchise guy sitting on the bench right now. It always runs out. That
that's
luck
me.
always runs out.
I'm the guy begging to put Mike White in. Like, just get him out there. Cool. Well, let's move on to Cowboys at Falcons. I'll be totally honest. I've kind of avoided watching the Cowboys this year. They make me really sad. Uh, like they're hard to watch. But on this one, I think the biggest factor is going to be if Deron Bland and Micah Parsons can come back. I think
Yeah.
without them, it's probably going to be a rough game. Just because the Falcons really have kind of gotten going here recently. They really do look like a somewhat of a contender, even you might say. I don't know if I'm ready to go that far. Obviously, playoff team. I feel way better saying. The way I think about this game, just to kind of encapsulate it, is to me it's a battle to see whose defense is worse at which part of the game. Is the Falcons' pass defense bad enough to let Dak get going? Or will the Cowboys continue being so bad at rush defense and let Bijan Robinson start going? Will we finally see Kirk Cousins maybe do a little bit more play action? He currently ranks, this is wild, he ranks 38th out of 39 quarterbacks in play action rate,
Wow.
behind the Raiders' Aiden O'Connell. That's
Ooh.
14.2% of his dropbacks are in play action this year. That's compared to 2022, 28.5%, or 31.1% in 2023. I am floored by that. And I just,
But hey,
do you think
we're
it's all, I was just saying, do you think it's all about just that mobility he's lost? Or do you think it's this? I don't know.
I think it's scheme. I think it's really this Falcons offense wants to get guys like Drake London and Kyle Pitts going, and they have sporadically. It's kind of been inconsistent for them, but
This might be
for
Pitt's best year to your point.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean by far
Yeah.
this is the year that Falcons fans have been waiting for him, and for as much as we can talk about Kirk Cousins' limitations, he's sixth in the league in passing yards right now.
Yeah.
He's slanging it, and I think that uh, this Cowboys team is reeling. I think that we're kind of seeing that they don't have as much talent as we thought they did. Beyond like the top guys, I think we've kind of been dazzled by the star power the past few years, and we've kind of been ignoring that. You the field, and I think that this Falcons team is it. They're exactly the kind of team that's going to expose the problems with the Dallas defense. I do think that it is going to come down to Bijan Robinson, like you said, exploiting the rushing defense. But Kirk Cousins with momentum, Kirk Cousins, playing on his front foot, that's a dangerous guy. And with the weapons he has around him, I just don't think the Cowboys are going to catch up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I am way more inclined to take the Falcons here. I think the only thing you could really maybe, I think the person that feels confident about the Cowboys or who bets on them on Sunday is the person that says this is a desperation game and believes emotions will overcome that. But I just don't think they've been good enough. And you're going against a great pass defense, hoping you're getting these Deron Bland, who hasn't played all year, who kind of had a breakout year. I don't even know if he's that good, to be honest with you. And then, yeah.
And also, I mean, they've been playing. The Cowboys have been playing desperation games for 2 weeks. Like they're. I don't think anyone expected them to be, this far behind the Washington Commanders at this point in the season. I think that they couldn't do it against a hobbled 49ers playing without, so many playmakers. They gave up 30 points to that offense. I think that a healthy Falcons team is going to do the exact same, if not more, to this Dallas defense.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like an arrival game for the Falcons. Like if you're not taking them seriously yet, I think you will, just because of how many eyeballs are going to be on this game.
I think so too. I think this is going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
I see the Falcons winning this by 14 or more.
Yeah. I mean, it's either going to be a blowout Falcons or I think Cowboys win by 1. Where it's just one of those emotion games and it's last second. But I think more realistically, you know what? I'll actually say it won't be a 2-touchdown game. It'll be like a 7-point game because we'll get a lot of Dak Prescott garbage time buckets like he always likes to do. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
I can so see that.
Garbage time all-star. Call him Bronny James.
Man. Yeah, that fantasy football god.
Yeah, you love him. Well, sweet. Yeah, got Falcons on there. Might be like the last time the Cowboys are really even taken seriously this season. So
yeah,
be interesting to see that unravel. Does before we move on, does McCarthy get fired before the end of the year?
I see him getting fired in the off season.
Yeah,
I don't know what it would. You've kept him around for this long. I don't know why you'd pull the plug halfway through.
Yeah,
and just you have so big contracts on this team. You have so many guys here for the long haul. It would just send the entire organization into disarray to just abandon the season already. I think you got to play it out and then hope that, maybe you can get Ben Johnson in the offseason or some other offensive mind who can make the most of these very expensive tools at his disposal.
Yeah.
But I don't think Jerry will fire Mike McCarthy before the season's end.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think you're right. It would just be chaos. Yeah, why do that? Cool. Raiders at the Bengals. I mean, it's another two teams lost at sea. I mean, the Bengals really should be better. They really should be. They always get off to these slow starts, and I mean, the Raiders. What's there to even say? I think their season's been dead in the water even when they were like 2-3 or whatever. I just their win against the Ravens kept them kind of interesting, but when you're swapping between quarterbacks and your coach just doesn't really seem to have a plan right now. I like Pierce too. I think he's I was into him to start, but he seems a little over his head right now. I don't know. It's kind of two teams I don't believe in, but I don't believe in the Raiders more. I just think Bengals have more to fight for. They obviously have better talent. It's the only thing is can Max Crosby take over this game? We're gonna have what's his name, Orlando Brown, the left tackle for Cincinnati. He's gonna be out, so maybe there's some chance for some pass rush to get Burrow unsettled. Maybe you sneak in an interception and let Gardner chuck one down there to get a quick touchdown or something. But yeah, I'm not trusting Raiders at all.
I'm gonna throw out a hot take here. I like the Raiders.
Yeah,
I think this is a trap game isn't the right word. I don't think the Bengals are good enough to be playing trap games. But you look at what the Raiders have done this season. I mean, there's some ugly losses. There's some ugly offensive displays, but I mean, they played the Chiefs real close. They played the Rams close. They beat your Browns. They beat the Ravens in week 2. Quarterback is a problem for them no matter what. It does whether Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew or whoever is under center. It's kind of the same result. But I think that I like Brock Bowers.
he's the real deal. Yeah,
He's the real deal, and I like Antonio Pierce. I think he has his guys punching above their weight class, and even though that hasn't shown up in the win column yet, they're not getting embarrassed. I guess you could say the losing by 14 to the Panthers, that was embarrassing. Besides the Panthers game,
it was Andy Dalton though. At least it's Andy Dalton.
it was.
At least it's Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton's good for 2 of those a season, no matter what team is around him.
Exactly.
But I think that the Raiders are there. There's a lot of glaring holes, but they are scrappy. They are ankle biters, and this is a reeling Bengals team. This is a demoralized Bengals team. The offensive line has been a problem since Joe Burrow got there, and it just got a whole lot worse. I think Max Crosby is going to be the player of the game. I think Brock Bowers is going to have a big game against this not good Bengals defense that's been struggling to stop, even not great offenses. I really do. I think that this is going to be the upset of the week. I think the Raiders take this.
Interesting. And I'm curious. So, like in the Raiders, are you feeling at all like they're going to be like in the hunt for a wild card spot?
Not.
Okay.
No,
okay.
No. I think that they're going to knock off teams like this throughout the season. And I think that next year, whichever quarterback they choose, I'm crossing my fingers for Sanders. I think that they're going to surprise a lot of people because I don't think they're nearly as bad as their record says. They're not a good team by any means, but they are a tough team. They don't fall apart. And they have a playmaker on both sides of the ball who I think can really just open up a game against a team with as many holes as the Bengals.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say their defense is always scary. I think Spillane is fantastic too, that linebacker. And obviously, we already mentioned Crosby. I don't know though. The other thing to bring up though is just that this Raiders team. We just have it here, and they're minus 13 in turnover differential, which is pretty crazy. That's 31st in the league. They can't, and it's. I know the quarterback play, like you said, bad regardless of who's in there, but I don't know. They just seem so detrimental to their just picks, and I don't know. I can see what you're saying, and I do think Cincinnati is weak right now, but I don't know. I think they're better. I think they're better than their record is. And I think they've just kind of been one of those sorely underperforming teams, like they kind of always are, but they just haven't gotten out of the slump this year. I don't think they're going to look good against the Raiders, but I think they're going to win. Another disagreement between us. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's chat on Broncos at the Ravens. So I think probably biggest story here is Ravens defense versus Broncos offense. I would be pretty, I'd be pretty surprised to see the Broncos super take advantage of this rough Ravens defense. Just a couple numbers to put to that. They haven't been very good at generating pressure. They're around, 18th in pressure rate, 22nd in hurry rate. They've had miscommunications. One of the ways they lost to the Browns too was on a cover zero blitz where they couldn't get any pressure, and they didn't have any help over the top either. Just bad scheming there for what their defense actually looks like. 27th in points allowed, 27th in defensive EPA. They were second in that metric last year. They're missing 2 of their 3 corners in Humphrey and Wiggins. They lost 2 defensive linemen in Michael Pierce and Brent Urban. It is just a banged up team, not playing well. And this offense is having to do a lot for them. So that's where the opening is for the Broncos is can Bo Nix put together a whole game of production versus going into ad lib mode in the fourth quarter and kind of playing college ball and making it happen. I know there's been talk with Sean Payton and just the staff about kind of getting him going in some of these more ad lib sort of things earlier, as opposed to forcing him to play in so much structure. That I think is going to be the most fun part of watching this game is the first quarter, second quarter drives of this Broncos offense. What are they having Bo Nix doing to try to get loose and comfortable against a possibly pretty weak Ravens defense?
Yeah, I do. On the other hand, I have more faith in John Harbaugh to stop a rookie quarterback than I do in the Broncos to kind of prop one up against a team that we can talk about the holes in their defense. It's still this is a playoff team in the Ravens, and I don't think that Bo Nix is ready to play playoff level offense yet. I think that Harbaugh is going to be able to scheme around his deficiencies and also kind of take away the things that Bo Nix does well. I think that there's enough tape on Bo Nix now where a guy with as much experience as Harbaugh has, who's been working with this squad for so long, he can figure something out to knock him out of his rhythm. And I think on the other side of the ball, Broncos defense playing
they're
super
great.
tough football.
Yeah,
super tough.
They're
football. Great. But I do believe in Lamar Jackson. Maybe I shouldn't. I've been proven
no
wrong so
way.
many times.
Lamar Jackson's the best quarterback in the NFL, and he has been for 3 years. Yeah,
he should be.
Yeah,
he theoretically is the best quarterback in football.
Yeah. If only playoff games didn't exist,
Yeah, and we can talk about the flukes, the 60-yard bombs that bounce off his receivers' numbers. I do think that he's going to rise to the challenge, and as long as we can get the Ravens can get these 3 and outs on Bo Nix, get him out of his rhythm, I think Lamar is going to keep his foot on the gas the whole game, and force the Broncos to play from behind, which I just don't think Bo Nix is ready to do that against a defensive mind like John Harbaugh.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. And honestly, it's one of those things with the Ravens where you're going to get burned some weeks betting on them, but it's hard to ever feel like it's a bad bet to take Lamar Jackson, regardless of who's there. And him and Derrick Henry, that has been such an amazing pairing.
Oh yeah.
I love it. And I think it's really going to probably put this Broncos defense into knots. I mean, you just think about it, even just from like playing Madden perspective, you're like, all right, well, they can go ahead and load the box. We'll just go ahead and either toss it to Henry or throw it over the top of them with Jackson. They don't want to load the box and worry about that. We'll just run it right into their face. It's like such a simple equation. And it's always funny, because I don't think my mind at least always goes here from a team building perspective. I would be like, Lamar Jackson's also a running threat. We don't necessarily need to spend on another running back. But I don't know. The more and more I watch some of these teams, and the Ravens specifically, I become a bigger proponent of strength on strength. If you've already got a great passing offense, add a better left tackle or add a better receiver. Just make it better. versus I think typically what I always want to do is like, get all of the lines up to the same amount of, I'm thinking Madden, like overall rating or something like that. But like, I don't know. The Ravens have really opened my eyes to just how important just building strength on strength can be.
Yeah, and I do believe in that offense. I think that they just they have the ability to just destroy a game in one drive and completely blow it open, and embarrass the linebackers. And as good as the Broncos are, I it's hard to see anyone really stopping this 1-2 punch.
Yeah. 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 I'm picking the Ravens with the idea of let's see what Bo Nix does in the first half. I think that'll tell us if this is going to be a fun game or not. We'll probably know within the first two drives of their offense.
Yeah.
Is he getting it out quick, or is he doing the same thing he's always doing, at least this season so far? So, oh, by the way, before we move on, do you think Nix is going to be any good?
I think he can be good enough. I think he can keep the
Yeah,
Broncos job for a few years. I mean, it's so early for all of these rookie quarterbacks that I can't in my right mind be definitive about any one of them except Jaden Daniels, who I
yeah,
do believe is going to be a star in this league, who I think is already a star. I think that he is in a good situation right now to kind of figure out his identity as a quarterback in this league. And I just want to see them. I want to see them put weapons around him.
yeah,
I want to see them really now. They have the defense figured out. I think now, either at the trade deadline or if, they want to be a little more patient in the first round next year. I just want to see them really kind of now use this momentum, take the next step, make some swings,
yep,
and see what they got.
yeah, yeah. The ad libbing makes me feel like there's something there, and it's just can he kind of do what Sean Payton really wants him to do? And am I crazy? Wasn't there kind of this like brand he got coming out of Oregon that he was kind of just like a quick thrower, check down, quick guy? And it's funny because that's not at all what he's been in the NFL. Like he was kind
Yeah.
of the prototypical like Drew Brees replacement in college, or what people thought of him as, and he's like kind of Tommy DeVito a little bit right
Yeah.
now. Obviously not that bad, but like he's better when he's rolling way out and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
be interesting to see what he does. All right. I figure I'll let you take maybe the opening on this guy. The
Oh,
Bears at the
geez.
Cardinals.
Oh, man. This Bears team, it's really hard to predict what kind of team is going to show up. I think that what worries me on the Bears side is it looks like we're still going to be without Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon, two of the best players in our secondary, two guys who can just erase drives all on their own, the best open field tacklers. And it worries me to see a team like the Cardinals, who are supposed to have a bad passing defense, who are supposed to be easy to run all over, and it it just worries me that the Bears are going to do what the Bears always do, which is they're going to get cute, they're going to be out of sync, they're going to punt on the first four drives of the game, and Kyler Murray is going to do his magic. He's going to roll out of the pocket. He's going to scramble. He's going to find Marvin Harrison Jr. open downfield. I think that the Cardinals, if they put together a couple touchdown drives, which hasn't been easy to do, the Bears have been very stingy.
Yeah.
They're very much a bend not break, don't break defense right now. But I think that this is a team, this Cardinals team, that just has such big play potential. And maybe it's the only thing they have. Maybe, they're kind of struggling in a lot of the other facets of football. But they have Trey McBride, they have James Conner, who's having an incredible season. They have all these playmakers on offense who can break off, a 30-yard play at any given moment. And I think it would be very easy for the Bears to play catch up all game, and for the offensive game plan to fall apart. And for us, DeAndre Swift has been playing great. I expect him to continue in the run game. But I really, the offensive identity, the balance between pass and run, and there's so many reasons to think that this Bears offense, even against a team like the Cardinals that hasn't shown an ability to really slow people down, I think that if they're playing from behind the entire game, I think it's going to get ugly. Caleb Williams is going to try some hero ball. I have the Cardinals winning this, and it hurts me to say it. I really do think that for as well as the Bears defense has been playing, there's too many playmakers. There's too much potential on any given drive. For Kyler Murray to just do something stupid, or for James Conner to just rip a 40-yarder. And I don't think I think the offense is in complete disarray. Don't think they have the ability to answer back if the defense is taking these big punches right now. I hope I'm wrong, but I just
no, I mean, I hear you. It's Cardinals have been one of those teams I don't know what to make of. I kind of had them as a pet team for like the first 3 weeks of the season. I've always liked watching them, and they just seem to be one of those squads you have no idea what you're going to get week to week. Sometimes Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best receiver in the league, and sometimes he catches one ball for 1 yard. Same with Kyler. Kyler can go for a perfect passer rating 1 week and then lose what was it, like 17 to like 52 or something like that the next week. So he is just, they're so sporadic. I don't know. I'm kind of liking the Bears here just because, like you mentioned at the top, with how bad the Arizona pass defense has been, allowing 72% completion percentage, they're 29th in yards per pass play. They're just not good there. And I think, DeAndre Swift is running well enough. And I think last game, may have given you a bit of a panic about the Bears, especially just how they were just impotent the first, half of the game. But I don't think that's who they are. And I think the Cardinals defense might help them get in rhythm. I don't know. For whatever reason, I am picking the Bears, and it's more just because I can't really make what this Cardinals team is. And I just feel like even though Bears haven't been great, they've been a little bit more of a consistent product in my eyes. And I think if they can, they're also starting to fight with head coach Eberflus too, which is funny.
My problem with the Bears and why I think that even against a bad defense, they're going to struggle is it's been real slow in the first quarter, getting the offense off the ground. And when they do have these great offensive performances and they're playing these not great defenses like the Panthers and the Jaguars, they're also playing bad offenses. So that it's kind of, the first quarter has been a lot of 0-0, 3-0. The defense has held them within one score pretty much the entire season.
Yeah.
Even in the losses. And yes, it's a very mercurial offense that the Cardinals are running. But this is kind of a demoralized team right now with the Bears. And I think that there's just too much explosive potential. I think that if the Cardinals can just get off to an early lead, break off these big plays in the first quarter, get Marvin Harrison Jr. going early, get Trey McBride going early, then they can just pound the Bears with James Conner and let Kyler play Kyler ball all game. And I think the offense just they haven't really shown enough ability to kind of keep up when they're playing another great offense.
Yeah. I hear you there. It's really a toss-up for me. And like I said, honestly, I feel like I'm only really picking the Bears because of just how bad the Cardinals' pass defense is statistically, and like the mercurial nature of it. I think it's going to kind of be one of those I think it's actually a really good game to watch because it is kind of like who I think people are going to start believing in going forward. So yeah, I'm excited about this one specifically. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
Cool.
We'll see.
I'm going to jump just because I know we've only got about 5 minutes left here, and I want to make sure we hit on some of the bigger games here. I did want to make sure we hit the Sunday night football game of Colts at Vikings. So, biggest thing here, what the fuck's going on with Anthony Richardson? I mean, this is almost going to be most of the conversation, I feel like, but I would love. So, since 2000, there have been 413 quarterbacks who have had over 100 attempts in a season. Richardson lands at 408. So, that is wild. Over 24 years, he's 408th out of 413th in completion percentage. From what I understand as somebody who's never like been in an NFL locker room or anything like that, the tap on the head to come out being tired probably rubbed those guys the wrong way. But I would say more than anything, it's going 2 for 15. It's literally only letting 9 guys catch a ball a game. How could you ever want to, and I know he's not the boss, but how could you ever want to work for someone like that that's not putting you in that position to show what you've got?
Oh, totally. And it's one of these things, you know, and maybe we won't have time to get to this, but like a lot of the talk about whether or not the NFL has a problem with developing quarterbacks. I think the biggest issue with QB development in, you know, the past several drafts has been teams taking really raw quarterbacks and expecting them to play starting level QB play in their first season or even their second season. Richardson did not play a lot in college.
He came 10 games.
Yeah, he got.
Do you know how old he is?
23?
He's 23. He's younger 23? Than like most of the college quarterbacks you see on TV. Yeah.
And he's still raw. I mean, it's still, we know what he can do well. We know that he's this gigantic, tremendous athlete. We know that he has an arm that cannot be taught, this beautiful deep ball, but he hasn't shown that he can do any of the things that we were worried about him doing coming into the league. And I think more than anything, it's just the fact that he's the same player that he was when he came in. And yeah, like missing a lot of time has been a part of that. And, you know, attitude issues, whether he's really working, you know, when it's not game time, studying film, whatever it is, if he's not putting in the work to become a pocket passer, or even just, you know, a passer in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the same. He's the exact same quarterback that he's been since he came in. He's shown no improvement. He's shown no change. He does a couple things spectacularly well and everything else terribly. I think, but I will say, with Joe Flacco, anything is possible.
I mean, so I'm exactly, and just even like, you got to imagine these guys much prefer playing with Flacco. I just grabbed Josh Downs as an example because he kind of went off when he's been with Flacco. So in the 3 games, mainly with Anthony Richardson, he only played, I think he threw 8 balls in the game he first got injured in that Flacco came in, so I didn't count that one. Josh Downs got 2.5 receptions per game and about 45 yards per game. With Flacco in those 3 games, he's gotten 8 receptions a game and 72 yards. So he's essentially like quadrupled the amount of receptions and doubled his amount of yards when he plays with Flacco. I think right there is your answer as to if the locker room is turning on Richardson. It's that. It's probably not because they think he's a bad guy or they you know, think he's too immature or anything like that. I think it is probably more than anything, we're not getting our numbers. You know, like, you got to help us out here. And with Flacco kind of having anything be possible, and to get into kind of this matchup against the Vikings, I so prefer Flacco's ability to read a defense to Anthony Richardson's. And we know this Vikings defense loves to use misdirection. They really like to make you react to them as opposed to the other way around, which I think is really cool with what they're doing. And they are starting to show some cracks, which we can get into. But yeah, I trust Flacco going against this defense like an uncountable amount more than I do Richardson.
Oh, yeah. I think that if it was Richardson versus the Vikings and Brian Flores, we would see a historically bad game. I
Yeah.
think, I
Yeah.
think he would complete no more than three passes.
Oh,
I think that he would have more picks than completions or turnovers total and completions.
I
It's,
don't think that's crazy. Yeah.
yeah, this is a big boy defense, and this isn't. I you know, they're not going to give up the stuff that Richardson is good at. They're not going to give up those 60-yard bombs or just let him, you know, scramble out of the pocket and run 20 yards down the field without a spy. There, he would have. I think that Brian Flores is really disappointed that he didn't get the chance to just obliterate this incredibly raw, incredibly limited quarterback, and he's going to have to play, you know, a real adult under center.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it would have been carnage. um,
Yeah,
and I actually think like the Flacco change is coming at a time that actually makes this an even more interesting matchup altogether. Over the last couple of weeks, Vikings are finally starting to show some beatableness in their defense. Few ways, just from the numbers, they dropped from the number one overall defensive team by EPA down to fourth over the past 2 weeks. And really that comes in their pass defense. So they still are the best rush defense by EPA in the league, which is a good thing to point out there that Flacco probably will have to do a lot of work in this game as an older quarterback. Not to say he can't throw it 40 times. He loves to do that. But and then their pass has fallen down to 10th. So they're still a good pass defense, but not nearly as good as they used to be. The biggest ways that they are going to be vulnerable, and I think the Colts can take advantage of, and why I mentioned Josh Downs. They're super vulnerable in the middle, which we know Flacco can make work. And then a lot of teams, especially the Lions, they did a lot of really cool receiver motion to chip block the potential edge rushers. So a lot of times, what's talked about all the time on all these shows. Oh, they're the most, walk all the guys up at the line and then drop them back, or they're the most, blitz or heavily coverage team. And it's really cool to see teams kind of force them back into the reaction role as opposed to making them react to the defense. So having some motion and then chipping a guy like Van Ginkel if he ends up coming or something like that. So teams have gotten a little bit smarter about that. And then they've been pretty vulnerable in the flats. And Josh Downs, and especially with the Shane Steichen offense, I'm a nerd for the RPO game. I love it when there's like 4 distinct options on a play in different places. I think that's what Steichen does so well, is there every level on every direction there is something to do. Downs, I think, is so lethal when he's coming out of the flat. Whether he's the one that's getting the fake handoff or he's the one that just, coming out of the H-back spot or whatever, he is so fast. And I think he could be how they win this game, is if they exploit those ends and get Downs going downhill.
I agree. And I also think that on the other side of the ball, I, I worry that Sam Darnold might be having a bit of a adjustment, a regression back to, what we expect from him. I don't think that this is a Colts defense that is going to, completely negate weapons like, Addison and Justin Jefferson. If there is a defense who can do that, which I don't think there is. But I do worry that, with a couple losses in a row, maybe is this the time when Darnold tries to, start playing hero ball and we kind of start to see some of the turnover problems that he had earlier in his career. Now that the Lions are surging in the division, the Vikings are on a 2-game skid, kind of just the mental game of Sam Darnold. How is he going to respond to this kind of return to adversity
Yeah.
after such a hot start?
Yeah. I mean, kind of what I've said about Darnold for a while is like, he can make all the throws. It's just he also makes all the picks too.
Yeah.
This year, like you said, he's really been. I mean, this has been the best year of his career. I think it's
Oh, totally.
by far best completion percentage, best quarterback rating, second most yards per game, second fewest attempts per game. Very interesting. They're actually using him less, and he's being more productive. And second lowest interception rate, and that's only besides his 6 games in his second year with Carolina. So, pretty much the thing that you hated about Sam Darnold was that he made bad decisions, whether that was on the football field or who he was kissing off the football field to get a little bit of mono. He's just kind of been a bad decision maker on and off the field forever. And it looks like he's, me and him are the same age. I feel like I'm becoming a better decision maker at this time. So maybe the same thing's happening to him
Is
too.
he really that old?
I think he's 28, 27, 28.
I always thought he was younger.
They're getting old. Baker and him, you always want him to be 22.
Baker came into the league a full 35. That guy.
It's like Aiden O'Connell who was like 26 as a rookie. Yeah. It's wild. I mean, or famously Brandon Whedon who was 45 when he got drafted for the Browns. Yeah. Love that. And then I know we're coming up right here on time. We won't be able to hit all the games here, but let's just kind of do a quick last bit here with the Vikings and Colts just so we can kind of really ride out and give a good one here. The only other thing I wanted to mention as well with Darnold, and one of the reasons I'm picking the Vikings in this game to beat the Colts, TJ Hawkinson is supposed to be back. This will be his first time back in about a year. I think I listened to a different podcast earlier today. It's been 313 days since his injury, so he'll finally be back. And tight end production on this team, essentially non-existent. Johnny Munt wouldn't have been able to tell you that was the tight end for the Vikings. He has 14 catches for 93 yards so far. His 93 yards would be 45th among tight ends. So he's not even crossing the top 30 as a starting tight end there. So I think Hawk is going to be giant for Darnold. He's going to get a whole new security blanket. And they're just adding another. I think Hawk's a top tier tight end, top tier skill player alongside Aaron Jones in the backfield, Justin Jefferson out wide, and then you got Hawk, in the middle.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, he'll have his full toolbox, and he's gonna. We're gonna see what Sam Darnold's made of. I think in these next couple weeks, now that the team's all together.
Yeah.
I also think the Vikings are gonna win, but there is just that little piece of my mind that knows what Joe Flacco can do on any given Sunday, and I look, if it was just quarterback versus quarterback, who do you want, Sam Darnold or Joe Flacco for one game? You take Joe Flacco.
You got to. Come on.
You have to take Joe Flacco.
You'd be crazy not to.
That's the only reason why I'm kind of reserved, is it's just like, will the old Sam Darnold show up, and will the Flacco that we know and love be there too?
Yeah.
I think that's the only way that this goes the way of the Colts. But yeah, I think most likely betting odds, I'm going Vikings.
Yeah. It'll either be a normal game where the Vikings win, or we'll get some Flacco magic, and the Colts will be like off to the races. I can't imagine the kinds of articles that are going to come out if Flacco wins this game convincingly about Richardson. Buried.
If the Vikings lose this, I think the wheels start to come off. I think that this is really, they need to stay competitive in this division with the Packers and the Lions playing the way they are.
Yeah.
I think that, sneaking into the wild card is not what this team has in mind. I think they're too talented to be playing for a wild card spot. I think they should be competing for the division the entire year. And it's going to be really hard to do if you lose these out of conference games, when you still have, you still got to face the Packers. You still got to play the Lions. Even the Bears, the Vikings have struggled in Soldier Field for so long, no matter how bad the Bears are playing, no matter how good the Vikings look. I mean, this is not an easy schedule for them. And this is one of the wins, and they can't drop these.
No, they really can. I mean, and I think you said it right there. If the Vikings really are as good as I think we both think they are, I really think they could be fighting for. I think they could get to the divisional round, the playoffs, for sure, and have a chance to fight to get to the Super Bowl. Honestly, that's how good and how much I've liked them this year. And if they are as good as I actually think they are, they beat this Colts team. They get back on track. Flores and KOC show they can actually adjust, which is something that's kind of been a criticism of them. And they start to get the season back on track, and this is going to be the game to do it. So completely agree with you. Well, cool. Yeah, well, we won't be able to get to all the games this time around. And I think what we'll typically do is Friday, where we'll have a little bit more time, or we'll kind of shift around the schedule so we won't be up against Thursday night football. But yeah, I appreciate everybody kind of checking it out. And yeah, we'll keep on getting better at this, and hopefully, keep these going throughout the rest of the year and into next year.
Great.
Sweet.
Well,
Thank you so much,
Doug.
Keegan.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yeah. See you guys soon.